In the late 19th century, long before the modern world found comfort in science and reason, Europe still whispered about monsters in the dark. Most people dismissed such tales as superstition, but secret orders knew better. Among them was the Vatican, which quietly trained hunters to deal with creatures that ordinary men could not face. One such hunter was known only by his surname, Van Helsing. Van Helsing woke screaming in a cold stone chamber, drenched in sweat, his heart racing from the same nightmare that haunted him night after night. He saw fire, a crumbling windmill, and shadowy figures screaming his name. He never remembered his past clearly, only fragments of pain and guilt that refused to fade. The monks of the Vatican had taken him in years earlier, giving him purpose in exchange for his loyalty. Whatever he had been before no longer mattered. He was now their weapon. A priest entered the chamber and informed Van Helsing that his next mission awaited. The Vatican believed he was ready. He was sent to meet Karl, a young friar with a sharp mind and a talent for engineering. Karl guided Van Helsing through a hidden armory filled with strange weapons. Rapid-fire crossbows, spinning blades, grappling hooks, and explosive devices lay neatly arranged. These tools were designed not for men, but for monsters. Their destination was Transylvania, a land feared even by soldiers and merchants. The Vatican had lost contact with a holy order stationed there, and rumors spoke of something ancient rising again. Van Helsing was sent to investigate, destroy whatever threatened the region, and bring peace by any means necessary. As they traveled, villagers along the road spoke in hushed tones about Count Dracula, the lord of vampires. They claimed his brides prowled the forests, feeding on the living, and that a monstrous creature stalked the countryside under the full moon. Van Helsing listened but showed no fear. He had hunted such creatures before, even if his memo. The pain grew worse as night fell. Van Helsing's body burned from the inside, his muscles tightening as if something alive was twisting beneath his skin. Karl examined the wound, fear clear in his eyes. He confirmed what Van Helsing already knew. The bite had cursed him. When the moon rose full, he would become a werewolf. Karl suggested killing him before that could happen, his voice shaking as he said it. Van Helsing stopped him immediately. He had faced death many times, but not like this. If his fate could help stop Dracula, then he would endure it. Anna refused to give up on him. She believed the curse might be used against Dracula. According to ancient writings passed down through her family, Dracula's creations could only live through the power of a werewolf. If Van Helsing transformed, Dracula would surely come for him. That might be their only chance. They returned to the village to prepare. The elders revealed more of the Valerius history. Long ago, Dracula had been cursed by God for defying death and mocking heaven. Unable to die, he was condemned to exist as a vampire, watching his children be stillborn for eternity. He sought to break that curse by science and dark magic, combining alchemy, electricity, and stolen life. As the full moon approached, Anna armed herself with silver weapons, knowing she might be forced to fight Van Helsing if he lost control. Karl worked frantically, modifying weapons and preparing a cure that might save Van Helsing after the transformation ended. Time was slipping away. That night, Dracula struck. A massive carriage burst into the village, tearing through homes as fire spread in its wake. Dracula's remaining bride attacked from the sky, slaughtering villagers and sowing chaos. Van Helsing fought back, but his strength was failing as the moon climbed higher. Dracula confronted him directly, speaking with cruel amusement. He revealed fragments of Van Helsing's past, claiming that Van Helsing was once a man of God who had been. The first light of morning crept over the ruins of Castle Dracula, casting long shadows across broken stone and shattered towers. Smoke drifted through the air as silence settled where screams and thunder had ruled the night before. Anna knelt beside Van Helsing, holding him as he struggled to breathe. His wounds were deep, and each breath sounded weaker than the last. Karl searched desperately through his pack, finally producing the cure he had prepared, a mixture of holy relics and alchemical compounds meant to cleanse the curse. Karl poured the liquid into Van Helsing's mouth, praying aloud despite his shaking voice. For a moment, nothing happened. Anna felt her heart sink, fearing they were already too late. Then Van Helsing gasped sharply, his body tensing as if fighting an invisible force. Slowly, the color returned to his face. The curse was broken. He was human again. Relief washed over them, but it was short-lived. A distant scream echoed through the courtyard. Anna turned just in time to see Dracula's last remaining bride descend from the sky, wounded but still alive. Fueled by rage and grief, the vampire attacked with reckless fury. Karl froze in terror as Anna stood her ground, drawing her weapon. The battle was swift and brutal. Anna fought with skill and determination, but exhaustion slowed her movements. The vampire struck her down with a fatal blow. Van Helsing watched in horror as Anna fell, blood staining the stone beneath her. Summoning the last of his strength, he rose and killed the bride, ending Dracula's bloodline forever. Van Helsing rushed to Anna's side, cradling her as life faded from her eyes. She smiled weakly, telling him that her family's curse was finally over. With Dracula dead, the Valerius souls were free. She died in his arms as the sun fully rose over Transylvania. The villagers later gathered to mourn their dead and honor Anna as a hero. A solemn ceremony was held, and as the clouds parted, a vision appeared in the sky. The SPI. The journey away from Transylvania was quiet. Snow began to fall as Van Helsing and Karl rode through the mountain passes, the ruins of Castle Dracula fading behind them. The land felt different now, lighter, as if a long-held breath had finally been released. Yet for Van Helsing, peace did not come easily. Anna's face haunted his thoughts, her courage and sacrifice carved into his memory more deeply than any nightmare from his past. As they traveled, villagers along the road spoke of the change. The forests felt safer. The night skies were calmer. The fear that had ruled their lives for generations was gone. Van Helsing listened but said little. He knew that darkness never truly vanished. It only waited elsewhere. One evening, they stopped near an old chapel to rest. Karl asked if Van Helsing regretted anything. Van Helsing answered honestly. He regretted remembering too little and feeling too much. He had lost someone who believed in him more than he believed in himself. That loss would stay with him forever. That night, Van Helsing dreamed again, but the nightmare had changed. He saw the windmill burning, the fire roaring into the sky. This time, the faces were clearer. He saw himself long ago, standing before Dracula as a holy warrior, carrying out God's judgment. He remembered striking Dracula down, believing him destroyed. But Dracula had survived, cursed and transformed, and Van Helsing had been punished for his failure. His memories had been taken, his life spared only so he could serve as a weapon against evil. Van Helsing woke with a sharp breath, the truth finally settling in his mind. He did not feel anger. He felt understanding. His past no longer frightened him. He accepted it. At dawn, they continued toward Rome. When they reached the Vatican, Van Helsing declined rest or reward. He asked only for one thing. To be allowed to keep hunting. The priests agreed. They knew the world still needed him. Before leaving, Van Helsing visited the armory one last.